Hello, guys. Please don't pay attention to my shirt. I spilled something on it, so don't look at it. Okay, so we are going to look deeper into allegory and what allegory is compared to symbolism because you're already familiar with what symbolism is. We talked a lot about this last year and we talked a little bit about this this year. So we're going to look at the differences because they can be kind of confusing because they can get similar in some ways. So, symbolism, as you remember, is a tangible object, so that means something that you can see, something you can touch, a tangible object, person, color, animal, place, etc., that represents an intangible idea, emotion, feeling, or thought. So, for example, a rose is a tangible object. It could represent or symbolize love, romance, passion. A dove could represent or symbolize peace or hope. An owl could symbolize wisdom, and so forth. So, why do authors use symbolism? They use it to help explain an idea or a concept to their readers in a poetic manner without saying it outright. So, this helps advance a theme. It helps them explain their point in a complex way without directly having to type out everything that they mean. And it's a poetic device. It's a literary device. So it adds complexity and I don't know. It just makes the text better. So in To Kill a Mockingbird, which we read last year, the mockingbird is seen as a symbol of innocence. Innocence is destroyed by evil, and the symbol of the mockingbird helps develop the theme of the book. And we talked a lot about that last year. And the possibility of evil. So we just read this together. An elderly woman plays a facade of the sweet old lady, but she is hiding some evil secrets. Okay, so the possibility of evil is not an allegory for a bigger picture or a different idea or story. It is exactly what it is. However, there are symbols that help develop the theme. And the most common symbol, I mean, not the most common, the biggest symbol that we see in the story is a rose. So Miss Strangeworth's rose symbolize her deceptive innocence. Roses are beautiful on the surface, but have thorns hidden underneath, just like Mrs. Strangeworth. So then what is an allegory? It is a literary device used to express large, complex ideas in an approachable manner. So this is like big picture. Symbolism is like little picture. So in an allegory, tangible objects can represent other tangible objects. In symbols and symbolism, your your tangible object has to represent something that's intangible. So, how does an allegory work? So, allegory works by giving characters and events in the story symbolic meanings. As readers, our attention remains on the surface story while a symbolic story plays out beneath. So, the whole story represents something else. It is not one thing, it is the whole thing represents something else. The song American Pie, which I'm sure you're familiar with. If you're not, you will be. It is an allegory, the day the music died, for this, the day the music died, and lots of other good stuff that we will get into. These are some popular allegory types. I did not mean to go back. Okay. Fables and parables. So, fables, tortoise and the hare. Fable teaches a life lesson or a moral lesson through animal characters who symbolize human virtues. So fables often end by literally stating the moral that the fable intends to teach. If you've ever read a fable, it has that line underneath it that says, like, this is the moral of the story. Because of their practical lessons and animal characters, fables are often thought of as children's stories. So Tortoise and the Hare. It's a story about a tortoise beating the hare in the race because the hare was so arrogant and thought he would win. But underneath that story is a story about how you shouldn't let your arrogance get the best of you and how you should persevere, and it has like a different story underneath the surface story. Parable. So a parable is a brief tale that is told to teach a lesson about morals or ethics. So if you're familiar with the Bible, Jesus teaches in a lot of parables. So unlike fables, parables have human characters and are set in the everyday world, and the lesson is usually moral or religious rather than practical. So this is a parable of the prodigal son, and this is an allegory about Christians coming back to God, But the parable itself is about the son who leaves his father and eventually comes back to him. And it's a parable about the Christian faith. So there's a different story underneath this initial surface level story. So lastly, wrapping this up, symbol versus allegory. A symbol is one small part in the whole story. To Kill a Mockingbird is not an allegory, but it does have symbols. Allegory is where the whole story represents a whole idea. So the whole story of the prodigal son represents a whole different idea. The whole story of the tortoise and the hare represents a whole different idea. All right, and that is all I have for you guys on this Ed puzzle. Bye, this is my outro.